Welcome everyone, it is Andrew here from AppleInsider, and this is the SteelSeries Nimbus Plus, the latest version of the SteelSeries Nimbus that is specifically designed for Apple's platforms. That is iOS, tvOS, and of course the Mac. The Nimbus controllers have always been popular. They've been always tailor designed for iOS and include a lot of features that you don't see when just bringing over other controllers, like using an Xbox or a PS4 controller. They're just things that always just don't match up and don't always make sense. These new controllers have been really designed from the previous generation iOS specific Nimbus controller, and we'll look at a comparison of that towards the end. On the front of the controller, you can see we have the D-pad on the left, the button keys on the right hand side, two joysticks, the options button, the menu button, and the home button in the center. Among all the different changes are new Hall effect sensors. These new triggers have a much more fluid motion to them, and they keep the same tension all the way through. The buttons on the top, those top triggers, are very nice and clicky. There's not a lot of movement to them, and they have a good click as they're actually depressed. And again, those triggers feel just so fluid and just right while playing. All the buttons here actually have a very nice click to them, and that's what you need. You need that little bit of physical feedback while you're playing games. Now there's some odd inconsistencies with certain games, like if we're playing Fortnite, you notice, oh, there's a square and an X versus an X and an A. So there's just inconsistencies like that throughout the games, but that's more on the game developers rather than on the controller makers themselves. The directional pad has been redesigned. Instead of being that round button with the arrows inside of it, it's actually just a plus sign now, though it is still an 8-way directional pad. So you have the up, down, left, and right, but you also have those angles as well. There are extra kind of clicks into those spots. So it is an 8-way directional pad here on the left-hand side. And of course we have the joysticks. The joysticks have always been great on these controllers. Everything feels very fluid, very smooth, and in our testing there is almost no dead zone in the center of these. There's always going to be a tiny bit with joysticks, but it is extremely small and largely imperceptible. I don't think anyone's going to have a real issue with that. This is still obviously one of, if not the best, gaming controller for iOS, Mac, and Apple TV. These also now click compared to the previous generation. They are now depressible, which adds those L3 and R3 buttons. This thing charges up over Lightning, so no Lightning cable is included in the box. Just use the one that came with your phone, or in my case, my Mac Pro. So just plug that Lightning cable in, and this is pretty incredible. It'll get 50 hours of battery life. We have not tested it for 50 hours, but we have not had any issues with battery life with this controller, and I love just being able to charge it with the same cables I have for my iPhone or maybe an older iPad. It's so much more convenient that way, and you don't have to carry it around AA batteries. A minor gripe here is it comes out a little too easily. We wish it was just a little bit more firm in there. It's not too weak just completely, but it just is a little light on that tension. Across the top here, you can see the status bar. It's used for pairing your phone, so hold on to that power button or the home button for just a few seconds to turn it on for the first time, then go into Bluetooth settings, and if it doesn't flash right away, you can hold the pairing button that is on the front of the controller. Those lights are also used to tell you what controller you are, so if you're on your Apple TV and you have 4 controllers put on there, it'll show you which player you are, and it'll give you your battery life from 25%, 25 to 50, 50 to 75, and 75 to 100. The SteelSeries Nimbus Plus also comes with an iPhone mount here. This is pretty awesome. It is just an expandable mount. We do wish the rails on the inside were metal instead of plastic because there is a little bit of give there, but it feels very solid. It feels very smooth, nice and premium to go with this controller. Those little paddles flip up on the front. It expands to fit any size of the phone. We fit our iPhone 11 Pro Max without any issue whatsoever. And then on the back, you just slide out these little prongs that go into the front of the controller. This controller looks very similar to the Stratus Duo, which is for Windows, Android, and VR applications. Even though that controller only gets 20 or so hours of battery life, and the phone mount is actually included separately. You have to pay extra for that. It's called a Smart Grip, and it's sold separately, whereas here on the Nimbus Plus for iOS, Apple, Mac, Apple TV, all of that, it just comes included in the box. So another great value. You're getting 50 hours of battery life and that mount, that adapter, included inside of the box. Once you've gone ahead and slid that into place, just slide your iPhone in. As you can see, we had no issues with our biggest iPhone yet. It goes easily into there, and as you jiggle this around, you're in the car, whatever it is, like, there's not a lot of motion there. It does move a little bit if there's a lot of shaking, but it holds it very secure. Controllers like this are great because you can use them with things like Apple Arcade. Now, it'll work with a ton of different games in the App Store, but Apple Arcade is special because for that 1 monthly fee, you have access to all of these games. There are a pile of games here, and Apple continues to release new games each week. So for any gamers that are out there, there are so many different options. There are kids games, there are adult games. There's just a huge, wide-ranging gamut of games available through Apple Arcade, as well as just the App Store in general. So whether you're playing SpongeBob or Real Racing, or just want to jump into some Fortnite, there is definitely something you're going to find on iOS or Apple TV or Mac that's going to be perfectly suited to use this controller. We definitely jumped into a bunch of games to test it out. There was no lag as it's connected over Bluetooth. It was very responsive. It worked great. I mean, it was just so much easier to play these games with a controller versus just trying to use the touchscreen to do them, especially if you're trying to do something like Fortnite or racing. I just like having that more responsive nature and physical feel of a controller. Some things are awkward, like the fact that it really does fall over a whole lot if you try to put your phone on the front of it and just don't want to smash your phone down too hard. But really, it is a huge improvement over the previous generation Nimbus controller. Here you can see them side by side, and it just makes a whole lot more sense now with this newer version. We have obviously the controls here in the center, all updated. Just overall design has been cleaned up and refined a bit, definitely smoother overall. We have the phone mount included. The battery life sensors, controller sensors was redesigned. It just really is an overall improved controller in pretty much every way. Those triggers have been overhauled, the buttons have been changed, the D-pad changed, the layout changed, you have the clickable joysticks on there. We will say that if you're looking at the joystick, or not the joysticks, but the triggers themselves, and this is going to be a preference thing, there's a little bit more movement in the previous generation there. In this older Nimbus controller, you can see how there's a lot of movement here. Now, it's not always the same tension, it's just you kind of running on a spring versus the Hall effect of the new ones, but the new ones are just a little bit shallower. So some people may prefer the shallower triggers because they are quicker to pull and there's less tension on them. Some people may prefer the longer pull of the older generation and they have a little bit more tension on them. I just love how this works across the Apple platforms. You know, your iPhone, your iPad, your Apple TV, your Mac, Apple Arcade is already bringing all those games to all of those platforms. So just an even better way to use a controller. It's just such a great value. It's easy to pair, it's reliable, has incredible battery life, and the hardware is just top notch. I mean, this thing is even more expensive than a PS4 or Xbox controller, and for good reason. It's literally specifically designed for Apple's platforms, and it really shows. There's no better controller right now that you can pick up for any of those platforms. But I want to know what you guys think. Let me know over on Twitter at Andrew_OSU what your favorite controller is.
Hey everyone, did you guys like that video? Be sure to click on that like button so we can create content that we know that you guys want to see. And follow Apple Insider on all social media channels. If you want the best prices on any Apple gear, check out the Apple Insider price guide that is updated daily. And until next time, we'll see you later.